Hello, my name is Shahid Islam. In this video, I will show you how to create Web API or REST API using .NET Core 5, and we will apply authentication and authorization on this API. This is a demo application which we will create in this video, and for backend we will use .NET Core, and in this project we will create API and we will integrate this API in Angular project. For authentication and authorization and user management, we will use Microsoft Identity. We will use token based authentication. In this video we will create three API. One is register, and second login, and third get all user, and we will integrate these API in Angular project. From register page, user can register a user, and from login page, user can log in into application. We will authenticate user with token, and if credential is valid, we will return a token, and when token is valid, then we will return a list of user, and we will display these user on a screen. In this video we will use .NET Core, Entity Framework Core for SQL Server, and for authentication and authorization we will use Microsoft Identity, and we will use Visual Studio Code to write a code, and we will use Postman to test API. .NET CLI command start with .NET, so you have to write first .NET. I'm on .NET version 5, and you can check this thing by .NET dash version. So this is my current version 5. We will create a new project .NET and new for new project, and web APIs are template type. .NET has a many template types, but right now we are interested in a web API templates. Then we will give a name dash name and a project name. So now we are giving .NET claim authorization. This is a project name. This command will create a project. Command has created project, but we have to move into a project folder, otherwise we cannot run this project. Some typo. So now we are in a project folder, and we will clear this command prompt. So to run this project we have to write .NET run. This command will run this project, and this project is now running on a localhost 5000 and 5001. Now we will open this URL in a browser. When you run this project first time, you will see this warning, so you have to click on advanced, click on a proceed, so it will not ask again. If you are in a Visual Studio, then you will see this pop-up. You have to click on yes. We will test this default controller which is created by .NET, and I will copy the name of this controller, only name not controller keyword. So I will paste here, and it will run the default get method, and it showed some data. So our project is running fine. So this get method invoke when we send a get request from browser. So now let's briefly explore the project files. .NET web application is basically a console project. So console project start from main method. So in a main method we create a host for web application. In startup file we configure the services and app request pipeline as a series of component. In app setting we store the connection string and key value pairs data. It's like a web config file. Launch setting.json is a debug profile for Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Install NuGet packages for Entity Framework Core. Search on a Google NuGet packages and click on a first one, nuget.org. Now we will search Entity Framework Core plugins or packages. So first one is Entity Framework Core. and click on a first one, click on a copy button and paste in the terminal. And we will install a stable version, but this command will install a preview version, so we will remove this dash dash version 6.0. and second plugin or package for entity framework, and which is entity framework dot design. So this one, click on this one and copy and paste in the terminal, and we will go with a stable version. And third, that is entity framework .sql. So click first one and copy this one and paste in a terminal, and we will install stable version. And if we want to install specific version, then we use this dash dash version and give a specific version name, then it will install that version. Now we will install entity framework CLI, and if you can see a unicorn, it's mean you have installed this tool in your computer. If you don't see this unicorn, it's mean you don't have. In order to install this tool, you have to write .NET tool install and dash dash global. It will install globally, and .NET dash ef. So here you can see it's already installed. I see error, but in your case it will install in your computer. Last thing which we install, that is Microsoft Identity, and for authentication and authorization we will use Microsoft Identity, so we need to install this package. And click this one and copy this package and paste in the terminal and install it. This package was a loss, and we have installed all packages that is required in this application. So now add connection string in app setting.json file. And here don't forget to add comma. In a connection string we have a default connection string JSON object, and here I'm using username and password, but you can go with the Windows authentication. And server name I'm using localhost, and database name is appclaimdb. Now let's add database context class. First we will make a folder named data. In a data folder we will create a db context class. Let's add one more folder, and we will add entity class in this folder for entity framework for database. Right now we will add one class, app user class. This is entity class. First we will add namespace and data.entities. This is the namespace of this class, of all of these classes which will be added in this folder. We will inherit this class from identity user. Identity user has many properties, and we will import this class. And if we can see the definition of this class, and this class is also inherit from identity user. And in identity user you can see there is a many properties like phone number, two-factor authentication, another property of user, password in hash. So we can directly use this class. Like if we want to add more properties, then we can add this property in app user. We will add 3 more property to identity user: date created and date modified and full name. So this is a way to add more property to identity user. So we have to import system library for daytime. So we have attached these three property to identity user. Now we will add db context class. This is very simple class, and I rename this namespace claim.data.entities for entities class, claim.data for db context class. This class will inherit from identity db context, and if we explore or see the definition of this class, then it inherit from db context class. So we will give type app user and identity role and string. Add missing library and click on a generate constructor. So it's generated a constructor, and that's all. So we have this class is ready. So let's see the definition of this class. This class inherit from identity db context, like we saw identity user inherit from identity user. And if we see the definition of this class, so you can see this class inherit from db context. So in a entity framework and a code first approach, we create a class that inherit from db context. So we are using Microsoft identity, so we create a class that inherit from identity db context, but it also inherit from db context. And last thing is remaining for entity framework configuration, that is we have to add entry in a startup file, service.add db context. Here we will give our db context class. In our case, app db context is our db context class, and plus here we will give a connection string. So we have stored connection string in app setting.json file, and if you want to access these app setting.json data, then we will use configuration object, configuration.get connection string. We have to give here a connection string object name. We will copy this name from app setting and paste here, and we will import missing library. We will use Microsoft identity, so we also add entry in a startup file and service.add identity, and we will give our user identity of class. So here we will use app user and identity role, and plus we also give our db context class. Now we will add migration, but first we will build our solution to see is there any error. To build the solution, .NET build, it will build application, your solution. So no error. And this is my management studio. So here you can see there is no database with. So we will run this command .NET ef migration add initial migration. So this command will add migration at root level of my project, but we don't want to add migration at root level. We will add migration in a data folder. First it will build solution, and if there is any error, then it will stop the migration. So here you can see, so we have successfully added migration. So here you can see migration folder has been added in a root folder, but we are not interested here to add, and we will add migration folder in our data folder. So we will delete this folder. Now here I will add one more parameter, output dash dir and data slash migration. So this will be our new folder for migration, and it will add migration folder in your data folder. Whenever you add migration, first it will build your solution. Now this command has added migration and data folder. You can see these files, and there are many tables that is related to ASP.NET Core identity. In identity, we can add authorization, role based, claim based, and role claim based authorization. Now we will apply this migration. .NET EF database update. This command will apply this migration, and it will create tables that are mentioned in a migration. So this command first build the solution and then apply the migration. So we are performing this command first time, so it will create database first, then add tables in it. So if I refresh this SQL Server, then you can see this is our database that has been created from Entity Framework Core. So we applied migration, it has created a database and added a table in it. So these are our tables that has been created, and these are related to Microsoft Identity. In ASP NET users, we will add a user record, and if we see the field of this table, then it has many fields that has been given by Microsoft Identity, and it will store password in hash, so we don't need to convert password in a hash, and other many features. Now we will add our first API call. We will use this existing controller, and we will rename this controller and name this user. And plus we will remove the thing which is present in this class. In our route we will append one more word, API. One function or method or API call, register user, and its return type is task and generic object, and it is a async method, and parameter type is from body. Its mean information will be in request body, and there is also other from URI. For its mean we will get information from URL, and we will receive multiple information. So I added a model and binding model. It's a convention. I used this convention. And I create a folder for this, and all the binding model will be in a binding model folder, and we'll create a class with this name. So if we use Visual Studio, then namespace added by Visual Studio, but it's very simple to create a class in a VS Code. First we will give a namespace, then class name. Here I will define a property that I will get from HTTP request. We have to import this class. and for login we will use Microsoft Identity Services. Here we will inject two services, first UserManager and second Sign-in Manager. To register we will use UserManager and to sign in we will use Sign-in Manager. .NET Core comes with built-in dependency injection mechanism we use to inject instance to controllers, and constructor injection is the most famous dependency injection method in a .NET Core, and right now we are using this method, but there is also other way to inject service in a controller. So we created two variables and we initialize this variable in a constructor, and .NET Core will inject these services in a controller. Create object of app user type initialize from binding model, and we will use this HTTP post method for update and add functionality, so that's why I name it add and update register user binding model. To register a user we will use UserManager, and use a method create async, and we'll pass user object and we will pass password, so it will convert this password in a hash, and we don't need to manually convert it, this password in a hash. Microsoft Identity will convert this password in a hash and store in a database, and then we will check result.succeeded. If it's true, then we will return success message in a form of HTTP response. Task.from result we will pass a message, a success message, if result.succeed is false, then it means there are errors, and we will return errors in a form of response. In a case of error we will return all the errors. Here we will pass errors, and result.errors we will have all the errors, so we will convert this error in a array, and then we will return. So dot select will only select the errors description, because we are only interested in a description. And string.join will convert array in a comma separated strings. And add this code in a try block so we can handle exception. And last thing, for this HTTP method we have to add whether it is a post method or get method. So we have to define it http post, and in this we will give a route. So our route will be localhost 5000 /API /user and /register user. So finally we have created our first API, and to test we will use Postman. First we will run our application .NET run. It will run our project. So our project is now running on a localhost 5000, but we will run this project in a debug mode. Click on a debug button, click on a launch.json file, and click on a .NET Core. This is a one-time process. And now click on a play button. So this project will run in a debug mode. And let's add a one breakpoint in a register method. Now we are on a Postman and localhost 5000. This is our base URL, and we will send a post request, and in a body we will send our information, our payload. We will send full name, email, password, and this is a JSON object. In a header we have to add content type. In our case this is a JSON data. Application /JSON, and now we will add relative path, which is API /user. This is a controller name, and /register user, and this is a method name. And click on a send button, and Visual Studio stopped on a breakpoint. And in a model you can see the information. This information is sent from request. So succeeded is false, and we have errors, and errors are in a errors object, and you can see we have a 4 errors: password too short, and etc. So in a Postman you can see we cannot see these errors, showing us a C# object, not information. I think there is an issue in a join method. We called to array on a description, but we shouldn't, but we should call on a select method. Restart this application, and we will send again post request, and I will click on a continue breakpoint button to see error in a Postman. You can see this error: password must be at least 6 character and alphanumeric, and must be combination of upper and lower case. .NET managing these things, otherwise we have to code about this thing. This time we will send strong password. Now we will check, and still we have errors, and succeeded is false, and continue. So here you can see username is invalid, can only contain letters and digits. I forgot to add username, and I will assign email to username. Now test again and click on the send button. On a breakpoint, let's see what's happened. So now this time it's taking time. I think it's inserting records, and succeed is true. Data has been saved in our DB, and we can see a response in a Postman. User has been registered. Let's check record in a DB, ASP NET users, and you can see one record. You can see password in a hash. So far we have created one API request that inserts record in our database using Entity Framework Core. Now we will make two more methods, one to get all users and second to login user. First we will make get all user. So this method will not take any parameters. In every method we will add try catch block so we can handle exception. To get all user we will use UserManager service. Dot users will get all user from database. We will return this object. This is a list. This is a get method, so we will add http get, and route name will be get all user. And it's not a good practice to send entities model, so we will use DTO data transfer object. So we will only send property which are required. I created a folder DTO and add a file user dto.cs. First I will give namespace DTO and add a class user DTO. I will use a select method to change the form of object, and I will convert user object into user DTO object. Select method is used to change the form of object, and it is equivalent to JavaScript map method. Start application in debug mode, and we will test this method. On a Postman, I will create a copy of this request, copy the name of request, this is a get request, so we will change it to get, and we remove this parameter. Click on send, and you can see the response. Now we will check without this DTO class and restart this application. Send, and it will have unnecessary information. So this is not a good thing to send entity object to user in a response. So that's why we use DTO class. Now we will add login method. So for this we will get data from user, and I will use binding class, and this class will have two property, email and password. Login binding model class. So this is a post request, so we will add route HTTP post. So we will get this parameter from body, so we will place here from body. First we will add condition. If email or password is empty, then we will send error response and that have message parameters are missing. To log in, we will use sign in manager and will use method password sign in. And first we will give email and password, and other properties will be false. We don't want to store in a cookies. If result.succeeded is true, then we will send login successfully, and if not, then we will send invalid username and password. Let's test this request. I will again duplicate this request and change the route to login, and will modify these body parameters. I need email and password, and press send button. So let's first check the data. It has a data in sign in manager result. So we have succeeded result true. So you can see login successfully, and let's see if we change the password or wrong password. So you can see invalid email or password. And what will happen if we send empty password? Then this case will run. Parameters are missing. You can see this is the response. We can use data annotation and model state to check email or password is empty or not. We can validate the data, email and password by data annotation. We will make this field required because we need both these fields, and here we will add model state dot is valid. and we will move all this code in this is valid block. Model state is not valid, then it will throw exception. You can see the password field is required. We can use both way to validate the model. We will use token based authentication. In a token based authentication, we use token for authentication. To get token, we send email and password to server. If they are valid, then server return JW token, and we use this token in a request header, and server validate this token, and if this token is valid, then he allow us to use this resource, otherwise it throw exception. To add JW token authentication, we have to install one more package, authentication.jw barrel. Search this package and install this one. Copy the command. For token signing, we have to add a secret key. .NET use this key to sign token. So just like our default connection, we will also add a new object in a app setting. We will name it JWConfig, and here we will store our secret key. You can use whatever you like. Don't forget to add comma here. In a startup file, we have to add some configuration for JW token. And plus here we also tell the .NET like you have to sign this token against this key. So we will get this key from app setting. .NET here will verify or validate the token, and this is a way to get app setting data in a startup file. There is a many way. Here we will add token validation parameters. Right now we will set these property false, and later we will set true. We will need this key in a controller because when user login, we have to generate token. For token generation, we need key. In a controller, we want to access app setting object or information, so we will inject a configuration in a controller as a dependency injection. So this is a way to access app setting information in a controller. Class property name must be matched with app setting property. Like JWConfig, I have a key property, so this key property name must be matched in app setting object and in a C# class. And this is very important for JWConfig class. in a startup class you have to tell like I want to map this app setting section with this class. Now we have multiple models, so I will move all this binding model and DTO model in a model folder, and plus I will rename the namespace. And we have to update the reference. Startup file, we have to add a middleware app.useAuthentication, and this middleware will handle the authentication procedure. In a controller we need JWConfig, a key to sign the token whenever user send a request to login. We will use dependency injection to get instance of JWConfig. In value we will have object of JWConfig plus data from app setting. Here we will add generate token method, and it will receive app user, a user. We will use this class to create token. And here we will get key to sign token. If this key is mismatched, then this token will not be valid. So we will use same key to generate token and to validate token. And here we will add some information in a form of claims like ID and email. Add here expiry date. This token will expire after 12 hours. And here we will add a key to sign token with algorithm. And we will use JW token handler to create a token, and we will pass this description. Token will return a string. Write token will return a token in form of string. Here we will add one more property, token. In a succeeded we will get user information, find by email. It will return a user, and we will pass in a generate token method. First create a DTO class of user, and we will initialize with app user data. And now we will generate token, and we will pass app user, and it will return token. and we will return user in a response. Now we will test this thing in a Postman. Run the application and click on a send. So I think this is due to we have a few word in a key. We have to add more word in a key. Let's make this key stronger by adding random numbers. Again run this application. Okay, now we have a token, and we can decode this token. Search on a Google JWT token. Click on first one. And here we will add our encoded token, and it will show or decode this token and show us what information this token has. So right now you can see we have encoded this information when we generate the token. Now we add authentication on a get all user method, and we'll define here JWT is a default authentication. Start the application and test on a Postman. So if we try to access, then we will get unauthorized error. Here you can see. So first we will get token through login call. Copy this token and go to Authorization tab, and here select barrel token and paste here. Now we can access this API request, and if we add a character, then it will not allow. Only valid token will be granted permission on our resource. And now we will add few more user. And you can see now we have 2 user. And if we set this property true, then it will validate the issuer and audience. So when we generate token, we have to give issuer and audience. We will add 2 more property in app setting. One is issuer and second audience. Give issuer name and audience name. And we have to add property in a JWConfig class with same name. And here we have to add issuer name and audience name. So when we send a request, it will validate here. We will get issuer and audience name from app setting. And assign here. And we have to add when we generate token. If we don't add here, then our token will not validate. Because information will mismatch. If we don't add here, then we set to validate issuer and audience. Then when we send token and this information is missing from token, it will throw unauthorized error. Now we will get token through login request, and if we check the information from JWT Token website, so here you can see this information is added in a token. And this is also a valid token. Now we will integrate these API in Angular project. For UI we will use Bootstrap, and let's create a new project. ng new and project name. ng is a CLI for Angular and new for new project, and webauth is our project name, and it will ask couple of questions. If you go with a strict type, then press Y. And routing, I like to add routing, and you can go with CSS, SCSS. So meanwhile we can install Bootstrap. Search on a Google Bootstrap. Click on a get started. We use Webpack in Angular, so we will follow Webpack instruction. Copy this command. Move to project directory. Right now we are not in a project directory. CD and project directory webauth. So now we are in a project directory, and install Bootstrap. And to start application, ngserve command is used to run Angular application. Click yes or no, it is up to you. It asks, do you want to share your project data with Google? Project is running on a localhost 4200. You can check whether Bootstrap is working or not in your application, and here you can see there is no color scheme, default color scheme from Bootstrap. So we have to import Bootstrap style file here in our style.scss. You have to import this file from node module. Now if we see, then here you can see this color from Bootstrap, so it's mean Bootstrap is working fine in your application. Now let's remove the default UI which is given by Angular, and we will remove all the thing except router outlet. And we will copy NavBar UI from Bootstrap website. On a Bootstrap website, go to NavBar, and there you can see many example. Select any of them, click on a copy button and paste here. Before router outlet, and here remove unnecessary. I will rename it user list or user management. Save, and you can see the UI. For the time being, I will remove this one. So now we have a NavBar. Now let's add different component like login, register. To open any folder in an integrated terminal, right click on a folder and select open in an integrated terminal. So this folder will be open in a terminal, and right now I want to add a component in a app folder. ng, G for generate and C for component, and login is a component name. So it will add a component in a app folder and add an entry in a app module. So here we will set a route, like I want to map this component against login route. In a component, I have to give a component. This will be mapped against this path. So if I add here /route in a URL, then you can see our login component is working fine. So now we will add a form, and we will copy a form template from Bootstrap and copy any that have email and password. So I will copy this one and will paste in a login component, and will modify according to our need, and remove this read only and delete this value. Both control should have same class. Form control. For better look and feel, we will move this code in a card and copy card template from Bootstrap website, and there is a different card type. Copy this one or any of them and paste here, and move this code in a card and remove the existing thing. Move this code in a card body div. If we check, so card size is small. Let's make this 30 rem. Better now. Now we will move this code card in a Bootstrap grid container, then row and then column, and we will set this column size 6 because we will center this login form, and remove the width, so its size will be always 6 column. So you can see this card will be responsive, and we will center this card. Justify content center, it will center the card or this form, the thing which is in a column. So in this application we will use reactive form, so we have to import some important thing. First, form module. And second, HTTP client module. We will use this library to send API requests to server. For reactive form, we have to import reactive form module. Here inject a form builder and create an instance of login form or form instance. So we will use this builder to build a form, and we will add a control in our form object, and we will use validation validator.required. We'll make this field required field. In HTML file we have to add form control name, and we have to give name of the control which we added in a TS file, and we move this code in a form tag, and in a form we have to give a name of form group of form name. In this case is login form. Form attribute don't need a bracket, so we will remove. We will add a submit event, and whenever user click on a submit button, this event will trigger. And we will copy button from Bootstrap and paste here, change the name login, and we will bind the disable property with the login dash valid. If form is invalid, then this button will be disabled. And we will create a function in a TS file with the name ng-submit. In the method we will log on submit, so when we click, so we can see this message and we can check this button is working fine. Now check the form. So this button didn't enable. There is error, I think. So here is a typo. We have to write here a password, but still it's not working. So I think there is type in a form control. Button is enabled, but it's not working. Here button type is button, but we have to make this button type submit. Button is working fine, and we can see the message. Now we will add one more validation, which is email validation. It will validate the email. Now both field has a data, but button is still disabled. When email field has a proper email, then this button will enable. Now you can see when user enter a valid email, then this button working fine. Now we will add register component, and now this time we will copy login form thing. In other words, we will create a copy of login form. In our routing, we will map register route against register component. Now you can see register component is working. So here we will add a URL, a navigation bar for register and login. If we add route in a href tag, then this will refresh the page. It will work, but it will refresh the page. In a single page application, we don't refresh the page. Now you can see application is being reloaded. So here we will use router link for navigation. Router link will not refresh the page, and we can easily navigate between pages or component. We can navigate between pages, but application is not being refreshed. So in our register form we need to add one more field, which is full name. So we will copy our existing code. Here we have to give a form control name, and we have to add here in a TS file full name, and this field is also required. So we will remove email validation. So you can see on our register we have a 3 field. Send HTTP request to server, we use service in Angular. So we will create a user service in which we add a register method and login method. Create a service folder and open this folder in a terminal. ng G for generate and S for service, and service name, user is our service name. So we have a service file. In this service we will inject HTTP client. In app module we imported HTTP client module. In a service we import HTTP client. Here we will create 2 methods in which we send API request to server. For login we need 2 fields, email and password. So we use post request for login. So here we will create a post request. In a body we will send our information, which is email and password. We will send a post request. In a post request first we have to give a URL. So first we create a base URL and we will append method name with base URL. In this case base URL is localhost 5000. So we are creating login method. So method name will be login and we will append base URL with method name. So avoid typo error, I will copy so URL will be localhost 5000 slash login, and I will return the response of post request. In second parameter is body. In third parameter we can give header, and we don't need to send content type Angular send a content type JSON, so we don't need to send we don't need to add the content type in a header. I created copy of login and for register method. They are almost same except few property. Full name, I have to add here full name, and I will copy a method name, in this case register user, and I will replace with register user. Login and register method is ready. Now we can call these method from component, and I will inject this service in a login component and in a register component, from where I will call these method. First I have to inject service. So I will call this register method on a submit method, and I will pass data, full name, email, password, and I will subscribe this method. Whenever response return, this subscribe method will invoke. We will get this information from form, and to get information from form we use register form.controls. In a controls we have to give a control name and dot value. It will return the value. Here we have to give a control name, full name, and dot value. It will return the value, current value, which is in a field. So I will create a copy of these lines so it will be easy to modify. And second is email and password. So here I will replace this value with email and password. So it will get value from form, and we will pass this information in a register method. Here I will log the response of this method. Start API project in a debug mode, and let's try test user and test user email ID and password. First error that we're gonna receive, which is cores, because we are running on a two different domain. One is localhost 4200 and second localhost 5000. Browser security prevent a web page from making a request to different domain than the one that serve the web page. This restriction is called same region policy. For example, on ABC domain your Angular project is running, and on XYZ domain your API project is running. So you want to send API request to XYZ, browser don't allow this. This is called cross region request. You have to enable cross region request in a API project, then browser will allow to send cross region request. There is a many way to enable cores. So in a startup file, first I will add a course origin policy name. Here I will store the course policy name, and in a service I will add a course service dot add course. In our options we will add a policy, option dot add policy. First we have to give a name. In lambda expression you will configure the course, like allow any header. Right now I will go with allow any header, allow any method. You can configure, you can add a restriction in a course. Right now I will allow everything. And here we also add a middleware of course app.use course, and we also give here a policy name. This middleware will handle the course related thing. Start the application. Now tested, click on login. I forgot to add keyword API and controller name in a route. Copy URL from Postman. So we tested this URL and paste here. If you see certificate authority invalid, then simply run the API URL in a browser and paste it in a Chrome. This only happen in a Chrome, so you have to click on advanced and proceed. Click on a proceed. So this error has been fixed. And here we are successfully able to send API request from Angular to API project. We receive with information, but here you can see we got a response but Angular through exception. Go to network tab and we can see the response. So if we see the response, this data is not in a JSON format. We should return JSON formatted data from API project, otherwise Angular will throw an error. In a subscribe method we can also handle the error. This method will invoke when we receive error, and first case will run when we receive a successful response, and second case will run when we receive error from server. In API project we will add a response model, so we will return a custom response from all the method. Custom response model are easy to manage, so we will create a response model in API project, and we also create a response model in Angular project. So if you want to use .NET Core response model, then you can use it, but I prefer to use a custom response. This response model is easy to handle. You can add more property. First is response code, response message, and third one is data set. We will create our own response code. Same, we will create this response code in Angular project. One for OK and two for error. So now we will replace all the existing response with this response model. And first we will create a constructor so we can easily initialize response model. First is a response code, and second response message, and third one is a data set. In data set we will have a data like array or list of some information. Now we will replace all existing response with this response model. So in Angular application we can easily understand what in a response model. So we can easily cast this response model with our Angular response model. So it's like a mapping between Angular response model and API response model. In exception case we will add a response code error. In a success case we return a response code OK. We started the application. Click on a login button, and now you can see now we receive a proper JSON formatted data, and now you can see we receive a response model that we send from our API project. So now create a first user from Angular application. testuser3@gmail.com, and now this time we will give a strong password. We will copy from Postman. Click on a login, and now you can see user has been registered. So we have successfully created a user from Angular application. So now I will copy this code from register component and will paste in a login. So we know these two are similar with few property difference, and inject the user service in a login component. And now we will test login form, and we will try to log in. Copy this email and password, and click on a login. Be able to generate token, and you can see a response model. So here we have our token and user information. Now we will create a user management page in which we will display the all users ng G for generate and C for component, and user management is a component name, and it will create a component. We will copy table template from Bootstrap website, and I will move this table in rows and columns which I used in a login register page, and I will copy this piece of code from login register. In this table we need a 3-column full name, email and username. Now we will create a route for user management page. In a component we will give a component name, and here we will set route user management. And plus we also add a URL on a NavBar. Copy this path and paste in a router link, so whenever user click on a user management link we will navigate to this page. When I click on a user management we can see an empty table, and this is a user management page. Now here we will add a condition: if response code is OK, then navigate to user management page. So here I will copy response code and paste here, and response code when is 1, so its mean response code is OK, then we receive a successful response. Now I will add a type to data any, so we can add a response code, and later we will add a response model. Then we don't need to give any type to data, we use any when we don't know the type. We'll save this information in local storage so we can utilize this information between the pages. And local storage class is available in every TS file, in a component file local storage, and we will use to save data. We will use set item to save data in a local storage, and here first we will give a key name, and second thing is value. In this case is data set is a value, and we will get this value in a login response. For navigation between pages we will use router service, and we will inject this service in a component. This .router .navigate, and here we have to give a path. You can copy path from router link and paste here. Now we will add a get all user API request, and this will be a get request. Here we will give a base URL get all user. This is a method name, and we append it with base URL. In a get all request we have to send a token, and we send a token in a header. We have to add a header authorization, and in a value barrel space token. If we don't send a token, then server will send unauthorized exception. You can get token from local storage. Here we miss a thing like local storage. In a local storage we have to give a JSON value, not an object, so we will use JSON.stringify to convert object into string. And local storage dot get item, and we gave here a key, then it will return our object in a string, and we will pass it into object. When we pass it, and it will have a token value. JSON.parse will parse the string into object, and JSON.stringify will convert the object into string. In a get request, second parameter is header, and we give a header value here, and it's giving us an error. We have initialized wrong header. We have to add here HTTP header. Now it's working fine. In a user management component we will inject this service, and we will create a method that will call this API, and we will subscribe the response, and in a ng on it lifecycle event we will call this method. So whenever user open this page, this method will trigger. And we will create a user model class, created user model class with these properties. Now we will add a response model in Angular project, so we can map the ASP.NET Core response model with Angular response model. So I have created here response model, and I created response code enums, and not set will be default value for response model. And now I will add response model to every HTTP request, and this will cast the response in a response model. And here I will use pipe operator. In a pipe operator I will use map, and I will cast the response into a user model class, so we can get license in a project whenever we call this API request. So we will get a user response model list. We will import a map from RxJS operators. First we will check response code. If response code is okay, and you can see we can get IntelliSense, then we will map one by one into user, and we will push this user into user list. If data set is not empty, then we will iterate one by one response.dataset.map, and first we will create a user list, and this is an array of user type, and we have to import user, and we know we have a list of user in a data set, and we will call map method on dataset, and in x we will get a user, and we can give a type user, and user list dot push, and we will pass a user object. So for this we have to create a constructor that will accept 3 parameters: first full name, second email, and third a username. And we will return this list in a response, and this will be observable because map return observable. Here we will create a user list array, and in a subscriber we receive a data, and we will assign this data to user list, and then we will display this user list on a screen by using ng4. Here we will use ng4 directive. ng4 directive is used to render a template for each item in a collection, and we will get this collection from server, and we will store this collection in an array, and we will give this array to ng4 directive, and it will display this list on a screen. Now we will test whether it's working or not, whether we can get data from user. So here I refresh and get response, and 401 it's mean unauthorized. And I think if you see a network, no data, and if you see a header, then here you can see bearer is undefined, and we didn't get a token from local storage. So here you can see, I will move this code above so we can debug. And here I shouldn't use json.stringify, and because when I used it was giving error, and I think it's due to strict mode which we enable when we were creating this project. So we have to disable. So we can disable a strict mode in a tsconfig file. It's still giving error, and it will be gone when we disable strict mode from tsconfig file. And here you can see it, strict is of true, we will set false. And now you can see this error has gone. And here we will use ampersand operator, so it will not throw a null or undefined error when we don't have a token in a local storage, or when user info is undefined. So now you can see we have a token in a token property, and I will click on a continue, and you can see we were able to send a API request, and you can see we have a data but username is empty. First we will check from network tab, are we receiving a username from API response, and response and preview, it will preview the response and expand, and you can see we don't have a username, and we can verify from API project, and username here we are assigning, and in a constructor you can see we are doing something wrong here. And you restart this application, and now we will get a username. So I will refresh this page, and I think this time we will get a username. And now you can see we are getting username, and if I click on a login, it will navigate to login, and if I click on register, it will navigate to register page, and if I click on a login, and it navigate to user management and fetch all the user list. So this is working as we expected, but when we logged in we don't show login link, so we will hide it, and we will add a logout button so user can log out. So here first we will add a logout button, and we will return to home page or login page. And here we will add a click event, so whenever user click on a logout, we will remove the data from local storage. Here we will create a logout event, and in a constructor we have to add a router service for navigation, because when user click on logout we have to redirect the user to login page. And plus we have to remove data from a local storage. Local storage dot clear will remove all the data from local storage that is associated to your website, and remove item will only remove the specific key data. So remove item will take a key, and it will remove data from local storage. And if I click on a logout, I think it's not working, and no log. So let's check. We can use both approach. This time I will remove this one, and we will go with router link. If I click on user management, server throw unauthorized error because we don't have a token. Clicked on a logout, it navigate to login page, and when I logged in, so I can get data from server. login and logout are working fine. Now we will add a property that will check whether user logged in or not. We will get a value from local storage against a key. If this key has a data, then only we will show a user list and logout button. Local storage dot get item, it will return the information from local storage, and we edit condition, and we will convert this method into property, and we will add a ngIf in user management. If this true, then show this user management URL. Let's check this thing. You can see no user management on logout. When user login, we can see user management. It's working fine. Now we will add this condition ngIf on a logout button. So you can see no logout and user management when user not logged in. So if I try to access user management page when I'm not logged in, so now you can see I can access user management page without login. So we will prevent this thing, and we will use Angular Guard feature. Angular Guard is basically a service apply on a route. If condition is true, then it will allow to access this page, otherwise it will not allow to access this page. Create a folder guard, and we will add all guard in this folder. And here I will open this folder in a terminal and create a service. S for service and service name. So it created a service, and I will implement an interface can activate, and I will implement this interface in this service. In can activate method, I will add a condition. If condition is true, I will return true, otherwise I will return false. First refactor this code, and we are using constant data in many places, so I will create a constant class, and we'll add a keys and other constant data. And we'll add this key, user info key, and public static read only, so user cannot change this constant value. And I will replace this string with a constant variable. This approach saves us typo error, otherwise we face some typo issue, and we can easily manage this key. If we want to change the key name, then we have to change from one place. It is easy to manage, like if I want to change a key, then we have to change in every area of application and where we use this key. If we go with this approach, I have to change the key only from constant class. I will remove all return type because we will only return a boolean value, and here I will get a user info from local storage and create a constant variable. So we will not modify this object, so we will use constant. And add a condition if user is not undefined, user is not null, and we will add some condition. We can check user has an email or name, we can go with some other property, and I added as a user so we can get IntelliSense. If this object is not null and it has an email value, then I will return true. Otherwise, I will return false. And here I will inject router service for navigation. So when we return false, then we also navigate to login page. And I will change the name of this service, Authguard service. And in our router I will add here can activate. It accept array. We can pass multiple guard. If this auth service return true, then Angular will allow this route. When it will return false, Angular will not allow to access this page. First we log in, and now we can access user management page and log out. And if I paste here route user management, then you can see it redirected to login page. So it's working fine. Login, we are in a user management page. So when user login, we don't show login and register link, so we will hide it. And here we will use same ng if condition with not operator. When user logged in, hide this link and add here not operator, and same here. Refresh. Now you can see we are, when user log out, we can see our login and register link. When user logged in, we cannot see login and register link. Thank you for watching my video, and subscribe my channel to get more videos. And in the next video we will add more feature to this project and .NET Core project.